Welcome, folks. And as you're entering, we welcome you. We're just waiting a couple of moments as everybody signs in. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll get started in just a few moments. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Portrait Drawing for All with Shelburne Museum. We're so glad you're joining us. This is our second annual art making series. Last year we did a figure drawing, and this year per many requests from you all. If you participated last year and our participants last year, portrait drawing was one of the things that people were really excited for. So we're so grateful you're with us today. My name is Kat Redness. I am the public programs educator here at Shelburne Museum, and I am joined by my wonderful friend and colleague. Would you introduce yourself to our folks?
Sure. I'm Sarah Wolfson, School and Youth Programs Educator.
And what we want to do is introduce you a little bit to the series. So what we'll do for the series, it's a mixture of engagement with art, with instruction, and then with your own practice in portrait drawing. So each session will have a different focus that will build on the skills. The other thing that we want you to know is all of these are recorded, and so you can revisit them. They will be on our website about 2 days after the initial session, and so you can revisit those, or if you can't make one of the sessions, that's a way to access them after. But we found that a lot of people like going back to them, practicing one of the things that we worked on, and it's a great way to continue your practice between sessions. So this is Portrait Drawing for All Session 1. I just want to go a little over our agenda today. Introducing the series, yeah, a 4-part series. You can participate in all of them or any one of them. And again, they'll stand alone, but they'll also build on each other a bit. So we encourage you to participate at what makes sense for you. Today, we're going to introduce ourselves. We're then going to do close looking, where we use collection items, artworks in the museum's collection to hone our close looking skills, and we'll talk you through that. We're then going to do a warm up with continuous line drawing. Explore how do you get kind of simplifying the features? How do you put them on the face initially before getting into that depth and detail, which we'll go into later sessions. And each of from simple features to our skull, which I'll tell you about, we're going to do a model where it's an intro. We're going to talk you through it. Sarah has done a demo video, so we'll talk over the video while we'll show you how Sarah approached that. And then we'll have time for you to practice with the same prompts. So we'll do simple features, and then we're going to introduce you to our skull. We have a fake skull, and we're going to use that as thinking about the skull as the foundation of the face. And then we'll have our closing, which will be reflections, questions, and then notes on next session. At any point throughout this, please feel free to use the Q&A feature. That's where you can ask us questions. Sometimes we'll give you prompts where we want feedback from you, or we want a response from you about what you're observing, how the process was. And that's a great time, yeah, if there's any issues or questions or thoughts that you want to share, I'll be monitoring that through that. Great. So we're going to start with close looking. And what we do, the way we think about close looking is you start with what you see. So you're looking at the piece. What are just the general observations without kind of the judgment or the sense of like, oh, I need to put a meaning on this, or I need to make a really, really fine and theorized observation. So you start there, and then you start describing what you're seeing. What are you noticing? What's unique about this piece? How is that? And then how does that interpret, or what does that make you wonder? And in this case, it might be, what does that make you wonder around how portraits are done, how it was approached? So that can also be thinking about the way the artist approached that, the way the person posed for it, the choices that were made. Great. So we're going to do this as a warm up for this, and then we'll do this also next time. And this is a great way for us to think about some of the collections. Great. So I'm going to change over to our first close looking. And this is a portrait of Nancy Snow by the Prior Hamblin School. And so I want to give a few moments for folks to look at this and to think through what they see and what they observe. And also, if at any point you want, you can turn the transcript on, and this will be captioned for you. So feel free to turn that on as well. So I'm going to give you just a few moments. Look at this. Feel free in the Q&A. What are some things you see? Feel free to notice and describe, and feel free to wonder about this. And again, feel free to put those responses, anything you're seeing, looking, describing, noticing, interpreting, and wondering in the Q&A. So we have somebody saying, I like the white lace collar and the fancy tassels in the background. Right. So here we have that white lace collar that's there. We have somebody who's noticing the background. How does that? The tassels framing. So that's really interesting. We're talking about background. The red rosy cheeks. Where are her lashes? If I look really closely, I see the finest, maybe 6 lashes on each eye. So that's really interesting. Framing her head, wonder with the wide blue eyes, rosy cheeks expression. Looks like she's about to start laughing. Tassels, flat itinerant folk painting, no depth. So this is a less realistic portrait as well. The prominent part in her hair, very noticeable brows to make shadows. Yes, observant, questioning eyes, ruddy complexion, rather flat. The curl on the forehead, heart-shaped neckline, shadows on her face, strong outlines, earrings, making the lace appear see-through. There's little contouring. This looks flat. Great, amazing. Thank you so much for all of those. Looks cartoon-like, yeah. Feels like a flat portrait, but details on the face, very dark, gold necklace, deep set eyes, rosy cheeks. I love that comment about deep set eyes because I think as we think about the skull, that's something that's going to really come into play. Gold jewelry. So we're noticing both the actual face, depth of colors, shadow. We're also noticing some of the choices the artist has made or the person sitting for the portrait has made about what they want to add that feels distinctive. Great. What I want to do now is I want us to practice this one more time, and we're going to look at the next piece. And this is Emily Vanderbilt Sloan Hammond, and this is by Carolus Duran. And so I want us to look at this and make some of the same. What do we see? What do we describe? What do we interpret and wonder? What are the things when we see this portrait that are prompted in our curiosities? So feel free again to add to the Q&A. Let me know. Let me go back. Apologies for that. There we go. Let me know what you're thinking. Much softer, so romantic, beautiful, and also inaccessible. Soft focus, dreamy sort of look, shadowing under the neck to add dimension. Beautiful diaphanous look to her sleeves and skirt. There's movement, the billowing sleeves, more diffused lines. There's a peacefulness to this. A lovely dress, shiny and lush, beautiful and like Sargent. Soft but rich, plain background, blue satin against the red. Again, people are noticing some of those choices about how the portrait is and what the background is. Red is very stark. Extended length of the neck. That's one thing we notice a lot about this portrait. Contrast between the blue, the pale skin, very dark background. Soft focus, movement of dress, very realistic. The tilt of the head and the look in the eyes. Different textures and fabric captured in paint. More realistic, especially in the hair and eyes. Oh, I love that some people are saying there's also a depth and mystery that comes off of this. Elegant, angelic. This is a skilled artist, more expression. Her hair is like a halo. Great observation. She's turned away slightly. Wonder what the gold object is near her waist. What's in her hand? Yeah. So there's a lot of wondering here. It's not flat. You can see the satin and the tulle. You can see that juxtaposition. Great. Thank you all for such thoughtful comments. Um, so let's get drawing soon. What we're going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to Sarah and we're going to talk a little bit about our first warm-up exercise. And in this, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a continuous line drawing. And so I'm going to let Sarah talk a little bit through that and feel free while she's doing that to look through some of the kind of observations and things we want you to think about while we're doing continuous line drawing.
So in just a moment, you'll see a video that will be sped up a bit of me doing a continuous line drawing, so you can see what it looks like, and then you'll have the opportunity to practice. So a continuous line drawing is essentially doing kind of like a contour line drawing, so trying to capture the outline of the face, the hair, kind of the basic features without lifting your drawing implement from the paper. I tend to use a marker or a Sharpie for something like this. The reason why I do that is because if you use a pencil, you might be tempted to erase, and the goal is to not go back and erase. The goal is to just kind of go with it, create your drawing, and you get what you get. So the reason why we do continuous line drawing as a good warm up is that it does encourage close observation. It kind of forces you to slow down a little bit. And when you slow down, you tend to observe more closely. It helps you focus a bit more. And then, as it also says, and I kind of mentioned, drives us away from perfectionism. So, hence the marker and hence the kind of you get what you get at the end. It's about process and not product. And it does help connect our hands and our eyes together as we draw. And there's a couple of different ways to approach this. You can draw where you are looking at the image and looking back to the paper as you draw and kind of going back and forth as much as you would like. Or there's another way to do it, which is a little bit more challenging and might be a little bit outside of some folks' comfort zones, but it's pretty fun, where you can approach it and create what's called a blind contour drawing, where you don't look at your paper at all as you draw. You only look at what it is you are drawing. So that's something to think about as you create, is looking at the paper or not. All right. So yeah, go ahead, Kat.
Yeah, amazing. So what we're going to do, and I will say this is a sped up video, so this is going to be faster than we're encouraging you to do it, but we want to make sure that we're efficient with our time. So this next video is this is Sarah doing a continuous line drawing. And I'm going to start it. There's no sound to it. We're going to talk over it a bit. And this is just a demo to see how Sarah approached this. And this is with the first picture we did. This is with the Nancy picture. And so Sarah, I'll let you describe kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, so at this, um, you pick a starting point. It's totally up to you where you choose to start. I chose kind of the upper left corner. And so I started with just kind of an outline of the face and then the ear, added the earring. And with this style of drawing, you will be kind of going over lines that you already created because you can't lift your pencil or marker or pen or whatever it is you are working with. So you'll find yourself kind of going over lines you already created, and that's okay. And then for this one, I didn't really do it as a blind contour. I was looking at the image and back at my paper. There may have been points where I wasn't looking at my paper, but for the most part, I was.
Yeah, and I was sitting there with Sarah, and it was very much looking back and forth, really kind of as the smooth lines were going. Sarah was really, moving with those lines of this. And what I'm seeing already is some of the things you identified in the close looking, those deeper set eyes, the strong brow, that really strong part. The middle part on her face, some of the accessories that are happening. One of the things that I noticed in the close looking was the strong jawline, and there's almost kind of a hitch up in the jawline before the chin. And so Sarah's noticed that there's a rounder chin with kind of a hitch, and there's the lace coming in. And so this gets you kind of really the essential pieces of this person, this portrait, and how it's going to come together structurally.
Yep. So I'm not
Great.
really worried about shadows or anything like that. It's just kind of the outlines of the face.
Yes. So now we want you to practice with this. So we're going to move on and we'd like you to take the same picture. We're going to give you about 5 minutes. So what Sarah did in that was 2 minute, that was a 2 minute video, but we sped it up. So take your time. We want to give you 5 minutes. We're not going to talk a lot during this because we want to give you that time and honor that time. So Start at,
One
oh
thing I
yeah,
will
go ahead.
mention, Kat, before people begin is, oh, the lights just went off in here. One thing I will mention before people begin is that if you find that you complete it and there's still some time left, maybe if you looked at your paper the first round, maybe you can try it again, not looking at your paper and just looking at the image, try it again like a blind contour drawing. So that's something to think about if you do finish quickly.
Brilliant. So we'll get started about 4 or 5 minutes right now, and we'll check in momentarily. I'll give you a halfway through and then a couple updates. About 2 minutes left, a little over 2 minutes left. About 30 seconds left. begin to find a stopping point. Um, Finish the line wherever you are, whichever part of the face. And just while we're here, any quick observations? How did that feel? What were some things you noticed? Are there things you discovered about the face, about your own drawing style, while you were doing this? Just a few comments, and then we'll move on to our next piece.
Can I show mine?
Absolutely. And Sarah, yeah, if people are reflecting,
So
feel free.
I
Go
did
ahead.
mine as a blind contour drawing, and I chuckled a little bit after I saw what I
Oh, we're
um,
getting blur on you. Yeah.
here, let me play with that real quick. Hold on.
And while you're doing that, I'll say very freeing to scribble. It's tough not to look at the paper. Never done this before. Noses and are soft and eyes are hard. Hair is up in a braid, varying length. Oh yeah, Sarah, look at that. Right, but still there's essence of that. The lips look bizarre on somebody's. It's hard to get the proportions to match the portrait. Some shapes are easier. I did not notice her necklace before. What's the pendant on it? Proportions of the skull. Her face is somewhat irregular. The flatness made it easier. Somebody did much better than they thought. This is great. And I think these are all really wonderful things to notice. And I think that, yeah, like there's exactly, we notice these details. And it's okay if it's evolving. And that's the thing is we're going to go over, there are some, um, somebody said they completely misplaced the ear. I love that. Yes. Right. That might totally change, and that's okay. We're getting an idea of how the face works together. One of the things we know is that a lot of people actually have a very warped idea of the structure of the face and where things lie on the face. That's part of why we're actually going to do the skull today before we get into some of the more detailed things, because when you realize that, where our eyes are on our face is actually about halfway down, and this is all skull. This is all forehead and skull. So that's a huge thing. Great. And let me see. Lighten up. Strict headmistress. Yes, amazing. Fun. Good. I'm so glad this was helpful for folks. And we'll do some warm-up activities like this for each thing. Great. I am going to switch over, and we are now going to talk about simplifying features. And Sarah, I'll let you introduce this.
Yeah, so for our next practice, it will be a relatively quick sketch sort of drawing where we're not going to get into super fine details like eyelashes and shadows and, eyebrows and individual strands of hair. We're not going to worry about that right now. We're just going to work on practicing drawing different kinds of lines and shapes that will help to start to define features, and also take this time to kind of get a sense of where features sit relative to each other, and then the rest of the face and the head. We don't want to bombard you with a whole lot of detailed information. We want to give you time to practice and explore on your own. But in just a moment, we'll show my demonstration. I will talk you through it so you can kind of get a sense of what this drawing practice will look like and what the goals are.
Amazing. And one thing before we go into Sarah's drawing is Sarah is using a pencil for this as opposed to a marker. When it starts, it's going to be hard to see Sarah's lines, and that's okay. What we want you to focus on is the movement of Sarah's hand on the page, because also this is something, especially when we're kind of blocking in the features, going in light at first can be really helpful. So you'll see how light Sarah goes in, and then you'll see when she starts to kind of reinforce some of those lines, she's going in darker. So if you can't see the lines in the beginning, that's okay. They will start to emerge, but focus on kind of how Sarah's laying in that foundation. So I'm going to start playing that, and Sarah will narrate as we're doing this, and then you'll have your opportunity to create a face with simplified features.
So yeah, so at this point, you will see, and yes, this is sped up, that I am just starting to define the shape of the face. So I'm going in really light and loose and kind of doing lines that kind of go over each other. I also added a vertical line to kind of mark the middle of the face, which will just serve as a guideline as I move forward. And so once I have the overall size and shape that I like, I went back in and started to darken up the lines I wanted to keep of all those light sketchy lines that I created. And yes, I am, using an eraser at points here and there. That's totally fine with this step. Now I'm going back in and adding the hair. I thought her hair was interesting and fun to draw, so I wanted to add that in the earlier phases of the drawing. Sometimes it comes later. This time around, I did it earlier.
One thing I noticed too, Sarah, is the way that her hair, it also kind of shapes her forehead too. So because it's kind of an updo and has some loose pieces. Yeah.
So this is where now I'm starting to add in. Did I freeze?
Oh, let me double check. Sorry.
There we go. Starting with, oh man, I got the light went off again. The eyebrows and the eyes. So basic shapes for the eyebrows. I do find that eyebrows, when you are trying to create a likeness of a person, capturing the eyebrows accurately really helps with capturing the likeness. And so for the eyes, I tend to start with kind of one line to kind of mark the top of the eye and then add in the iris and then the line to define the bottom of the eye. The eye often, ends up coming out kind of like a football shape or an almond shape. It's also really helpful to define the eyelid with another line that kind of runs parallel to the top of the eye. And then for the nose, I'm keeping it really simple. I'm not doing kind of vertical lines up that connect the nose to the eyes. Just kind of some curved lines to define the side of the nose and other small lines to define the nostrils. Mouths are tricky. So if you find yourself having a hard time with that, that's okay. I like to start with this one being a closed mouth. I started with a line, the line that kind of separates the top lip from the bottom lip, and then added in the lips from there. And while I was working too, I was kind of keeping track of kind of where features were relative to each other. I was mindful about not having the mouth kind of too close to the nose or too far below the nose. As I'm looking at this, my proportions are not perfect, but that's okay.
Yeah.
This is
And one,
all about Yeah, this
yeah,
is all about just kind of looking, really kind of starting to look and just kind of get an idea of how to capture different features.
yeah. One thing I always notice, which we've talked about a little, is how much lower the eyes are than we think. And I think setting
Mhm.
those eyebrows, yeah, kind of at the mid or just above that midpoint of the face is really fascinating. And we talk about the quadrants that if you kind of divide the head into four, you've got like this fourth, and then down here. Um, the two fourths here, but yeah. So this is Sarah's sketch. So I'm going to just pause right there. This was Sarah's sketch, quickly putting in just the structure of the face, simplifying it. This is kind of the basic, that foundation underneath, of what would happen. And so, great. And so now we want to give you a chance to do this. So we're going to give you again 5 minutes. And we want to use the same, the Emily Vanderbilt Sloan Hammond photo, or excuse me, portrait. And so really focus. This is the same cut of that Sarah used. So much more focused on the head and neck and shoulders. And we're going to give you 5 minutes and start now. And we're about halfway through. About 30 seconds left, so come to a close soon with whatever you're working on. And finish up. And Sarah's going to show if she's been trying, and we'll talk through that. But if there's anything you'd like to reflect on, please feel free to put that in the Q&A.
Worked a little bit more slowly than I did last
Yeah.
time, so I did not get quite as far. Let's see if it'll adjust.
Yeah, but I see that
Yeah.
you focused a little bit more on the eyes and
Yeah.
getting that. Yeah. Any other thoughts for folks? How was that? Great. Thanks so much, folks. Would like to see everybody's first. Yeah. So what we're going to do is I'm going to send something out afterwards, and if you'd like to share your work, we'll create a shared folder for everybody. With so many people, it can be hard to do that, but I would happily do that and create something that's shareable for every participant. Hard to, it's a face tilting. Yeah, want to convey the hair. That was hard. Similar free scribbly strokes as the continuing line drawing, even though it wasn't continuous. Lost proportions always do. Nose is really hard. Vertical and horizontal lines helped. Bit of a challenge having her look where she's actually looking in the picture, not somebody somewhere else. The tilt of the head. I was concentrating more, but I was not successful. Yes, you were, because you're doing this. That's success. You're practicing. Very helpful to know where the eyes, the hairline and forehead relationship. Dividing the face really helped. Mine looked somewhat human, but not her. That's okay. Hair wisps create a mystery. Drawing the face made me aware of the importance of shadows and creating contouring. Hard to get the proportions and could practice. Did more sketchy than lines. Her neck is so long. Absolutely. All of these things are valid. And I want you to say nobody didn't do it right. Nobody wasn't successful, because that's what this is. It's practice. And we have folks in here with all different levels of artistic experience. This is for anyone to come in. This is practice. This is creating a collective creative space. And so you're doing fine just with what you're doing. So thank you so much.
One thing
Yeah.
I do want to mention quickly is, yes, it's great to see a lot of people were finding that, that align to kind of to find the center is really helpful. And with a face that is tilted like this, it's extra helpful to kind of capture kind of the tilt of the face by kind of, instead of having a perfectly vertical line, kind of tilting the line to reflect the slight tilt in the head.
Yeah. I love this. Somebody said in drawing her, she seems even more beautiful than she did before. And I think that's a really beautiful comment because I think when we think about portrait drawing, it is such a reciprocity between the artist and the person who is posing. And so, yeah, there's Sarah's. We've
Well,
got
the
a little
light is
glare.
doing
There
all
you
sorts
go.
of
Yeah.
funky things in here, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I got.
Amazing. So now, friends, we are going to introduce you to our skull. So first we want to let you know that this is a fake skull. It's very realistic, but it's fake. So we want to make sure you know that. Let's think of the skull as the foundation of the face. And what we want you to do is just take a moment with your own face if you're comfortable and really feel the skull under your skin. So your brow bones, where kind of this socket is, the upper cheekbones, how those do, and also really the jawline. Like until we had the skull, I hadn't really looked closely and I realized, I have a ridge right here on my jawbone. That's that small ridge that you see at the bottom right there. And the cavity for the nose and how the eye socket is both really important for the eyes, but also for the cheeks and the structure of the face. So I think that's really, really important. Yeah, great. Amazing. So this is our skull. We haven't named him, and we want you to help us name him because he may come back in this. So throw some names in there of what you might want to name the skull. We're going to bring it back to our colleagues and they're going to choose of all the names. So he'll come back fully named. So let's see. What do we have? Sheldon, Shelley, Smiley, Incredible, Bob, Cheeky, Reginald, Scooby, Shelley, Harry, Email, Victor, Rolf. How do we know it is a male skull? We don't. I have been using he, him pronouns. You can absolutely suggest any gender names or neutral gender neutral names. So please feel free. Thank you. Reginaldina, exactly. We can change these. Blair. Keep putting those in. I'm going to collect those names after this and we're going to bring those to everybody. These are amazing. Clarence or Clarice. Love it. Bonaparte. Yeah. Yes, Chuckles. These you all are making my day. I need a little joy and you all are incredible. Sir Nicholas Demimsey Porpington? Okay. Thank you for playing with us. We got silly with this. Okay. We're going to get all those names and we're going to have our colleagues decide. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw the skull. And so Sarah is first going to we're going to show Sarah's drawing. And again, it's pencil, so it will come in as it goes. But this is the foundation of the face, especially too. One thing I didn't notice, which we won't do as much here, but we'll do in the profile, is just, yeah, like where those eyes are on the head. So this is Sarah drawing the skull, and I'll let her talk through.
So yes, starting with very, very, very light, you can't even see it, loose, sketchy lines to define the shape of kind of the top of the head, now starting to drop down to the jaw. Something I find helpful is when you're drawing a skull initially, is to kind of break it into two simple shapes. So think about it kind of like a oval shape to kind of capture kind of the forehead, the head, kind of down to the eyes, and then kind of like a blocky, more rectangular shape to capture the jaw. So that could be really helpful when you're starting out, is to think about two shapes. And yep, so then I started to darken up the lines that I wanted to keep. Erasing is fine. And using the guideline through the middle, the vertical guideline to help.
Yeah, those guidelines are similar. This as the skull is the foundation, right? Those lines are similar. How we kind of dissect the face.
And in this case, so I find when I'm drawing, a fully formed face, I tend to start kind of with the eyebrows and the eyes. In this case, with the skull, I found myself trying the kind of the opening for the nose first. With that being such a central feature on the face, I felt that starting with the nose would be helpful, so I could kind of add everything kind of in relation to that. Because it's just such like a solid midpoint.
Yeah. One of the things is thinking about how large those eye sockets are, and that's a helpful reminder to me that that portion is both your eyeball, the below your eyes, kind of the, I know for me it's dark bags under there, but also the eyelids. And I remember when I was taking an art class in high school, we were doing self-portraits, and my art teacher said, "Oh, you have hooded eyelids." And I had never even thought about that before, but she's like, it's part of what makes, a face distinctive is these little things. And so that whole portion of the eye, yeah, there's a lot that's in there.
And so now I'm going in here and working on starting to add in the mouth. In general, when drawing portraits, um, trying to draw each individual tooth does not always work out well. So it just there's something about it, just kind of makes some creepy vibes. So when drawing portraits, whether or a skull or a portrait, if there are teeth in there, to a safe bet is to try to more just kind of define the shape of kind of the teeth as a whole instead of trying to draw each individual tooth. So in this case, I really divided it up into kind of like the upper teeth and the bottom teeth with that rectangular sort of shape. Going in, working on the jawline, erasing extra marks.
It's interesting also to like think about my own face as I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what are the parts that are hard on a skull, but that I can tell that like there's fat and tissue on top of that skull that's adding extra shape. How's that building upon that foundation? I think especially about chins, like when we saw the first less realistic portrait, there's that very rounded kind of chin like I have, where there's kind of this little almost bobble of meat right there. And that's that part of the jaw, right? I That was something I hadn't realized is how much there's this little kind of hitch in the jaw towards the back where you get everything connecting. Great.
One of our viewers said they don't look like teeth when drawn individually, which is strange. I completely agree. I wish I knew why it worked out that way, but
Right.
I don't know the answer. It just is.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, and I also want to say somebody else put that, nobody's face is symmetrical, which is so true, capturing the asymmetry. So sometimes something, when we draw something, it can look odd to our eyes because we're used to symmetry and our eyes seek that. But yeah, faces are very rarely symmetrical, so that's a great reminder. So we want to give you some time to draw the skull and to really think about that. So we're going to give you 4 to 5 minutes to do this, and feel free. We'll be here if you need anything, but do that. And then we're going to do the profile of the skull. Um, and yeah, we're excited. So go right ahead and we'll be back. Yeah, somebody said, well, just while you're drawing, somebody said the eyes don't look fully centered. Yeah. And it looks like this, looks like one might be a slightly lower. It looks like we have slightly a more prominent brow bone. We're in the way we're looking towards the right on the skull's left side of their face. We have a more prominent brow bone. So even in the skull, I'm looking at, yeah, the lines around the mouth as well. about 2 minutes left for our front skull drawing. About 30 more seconds. And begin wrapping up your front view skull drawing. Great. So now we are going to explore, and I just want to go ahead one slide. So we're going to explore the skull from the side. So this is what it looks like from the side. Let me turn my video back on so you see me for a little bit. So this is the skull from the side. And so this is one of the things I notice and even feel on your own head is that back of the skull, how much of your head. And next week, we're going to also be looking at different positioning for portraits. So this will come in handy when we're thinking about how the skull from the side looks in a profile, how that head might turn and look different. So this is the skull. It's so much wider in profile than from the front. Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much more back of the head. That skull, that dome. I've got a big head, but this is, it's a dome. We've got this giant protective dome on us. And so I'm going to go back. We're going to see Sarah doing this. And then just so everybody knows, we know the skull is a little bit more detailed. When we go into the practice, the reason we have both of these is you can choose either. You can choose to revisit your front skull drawing, or you can do the back or the profile skull drawing, or you can do a little bit of both. So we wanted to give you that option. But let me go back so that we have Sarah's drawing, and she'll talk through this a little bit.
So light and loose to start, and I'm working on capturing kind of that oval shape to kind of get the skull, back of the head, kind of basically the part that houses your brain. Oh, Kat, I think this is a different video.
Oh my goodness. What did I do?
I don't
Oh no.
know.
Oh no. We put the wrong video in. That is my sincere apologies.
Gives folks a little bit extra time to draw then, right?
Yep.
So I mean, I could just kind of talk through
Yeah,
it.
please.
Kat, if
Thank
you
you.
want to go back to the picture and I
Great.
can just kind of talk through it a little bit. So once again, so for this one, yes, I did kind of create a oval shape to kind of capture kind of the part of your skull that houses your brain. And this has, you can see in the picture, there is a line that kind of there is a line there where the two parts of the skull meet. And even kind of lightly drawing in a line like that can be really helpful because this is another shape that's kind of on an angle. And then added a rectangular shape kind of for the, the rest of the face, where your nose, the mouth is, and everything like that. So started with those two basic shapes and then went in and focused on those details. So really kind of capturing kind of where it comes in, where the eye is, out a bit for the nose, but because it's not, a full face, it doesn't protrude out as far as a nose would. And then thinking about the teeth, kind of one shape to kind of capture the top teeth, another shape to capture the bottom teeth. Another thing with the side view too that I found really helpful is thinking about the idea of negative space. So kind of capturing kind of the space around the skull or the empty spaces within it. So you'll see kind of like at the top of the jaw, if you look through, there's like a little opening. So trying to focus on the shape of the opening as opposed to along with the shape of the bones.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for talking through that. So I'm going to give you about 4 minutes to do this, and then we'll be closing up for the day. And Sarah will draw with us, so we can see kind of how she interpreted this as well. But let's go ahead and I'll turn my video off so you have more of the screen, and then we'll come back in 4 minutes and connect. About halfway through. 1 minute. And begin finishing up. Amazing. And I want you to come back into the space. I'm going to put this on right here, but feel free to ask any questions. So we just want to reflect on this session. Thank you so much for your creativity. How was that? How was the skull drawing for you? Yeah, Sarah, let's see. Oh, can we? Perfect.
Yep,
Okay.
just
So
takes a
we've got
minute
that
to.
big dome. I see the beginning of the bridge of the nose, that eye socket, that
Yeah.
wide mouth.
Made a lot of adjustments along the way. Like I
Yeah,
noticed, like I kind of blocked out the shape kind of for the face. And then once I got the teeth in and everything, I realized I needed to kind of go and add more for the chin.
yeah.
I kind of ran out of chin. So yeah, made some
Great.
adjustments.
Wonderful. It's harder to draw the skull. The eye sockets changed. Somebody said really kind things and asked about how many people are attending. We had close to 200 people here today, so we're really grateful for you all for showing up and doing this with us. I'm glad the class was fun. Shape of the eye socket proportions are a disaster. That's okay. We might, because proportions seem to be a thing, maybe we'll do a proportion section. Continuous line drawing of the skull, amazing. Oh, I love this. Skull was easier. Yes, because you're assuming less, you're putting less. Yeah. Oh, fascinating. Amazing. These are all great comments. I'm so glad. Yeah, it does look almost robotic, the skull. We had somebody who said C3PO. Center line is really loss of proper distance between the parts. Yeah. Oh, great. Maybe a bit of background on Nancy Snow and Emily. We will definitely we can bring in some of that with future things that we're doing. I'm so glad you all are doing this. Yeah, noticing negative space. That's a really, really helpful suggestion. That's something Sarah often suggests. Wonderful. Feel free to keep those coming. I just want to go over a couple little business things and then we'll go back into that for folks that can stay for a few moments. Next session, we'll do close looking again with some pieces of art from the collection. We'll do another warm up. And then next time, we're exploring directional views. So profile, a 3/4 view, and then a front view. So front view, 3/4 profile. And we'll be exploring that. We look forward to continuing to create with you and having fun with you. You can always contact us at education@Shelburne Museum. I also just want to quickly do this and then I'll go back to that slide and our questions. Become a Shelburne Museum member. We are able to offer this for free because of our members and the amazing people who donate. Helps us keep programs low cost or free. There's also tons of other benefits: free admission, discounts, special access, discounted admission for friends and families. Visit shelburnemuseum.org/member or shelburnemuseum.org/donate to help us keep doing things like this. But I want to go back to what folks are asking for questions. Let me see. Great. Post the portraits again so we can screenshot and practice. This will all go to, this will all be online. So everything's going to go online. So you'll have this. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm also going to create a Google Drive that has some of the videos and some of the things so that you can access them. Um, so that you can access them offline. And so we'll make sure you have that. And that'll have some of the additional videos and some strategies. Wonderful, wonderful. And yes, the session will be on different and great. This is another question. We'll look through all of these questions as well and make sure that we cover some of them in other sessions too. Oh, I'm so glad so many people enjoyed it. We enjoyed having you all here so very much. I'll go back through the slides for folks that want to see them. But also if you have to go, we know we're kind of at the end of time. Thank you so much for participating in this with us. We're so grateful that we get to do this work, and we're so excited for 3 more sessions. And I'll go right through. Here are our skull friends. I'll give us a few seconds there. Here is our Emily Vanderbilt Sloan Hammond. And here is Nancy Snow. Oh, I'm so glad. We're getting really lovely thoughts. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, this is just one of our I do see that question, Carol. This is one of our most exciting things that we get to do. We love working with you all and love sharing this art making and taking a little breather in our day to exist and create together is such a joy and such a wonderful thing. So I'll just go back in case to our final slide, which has our email as well. You can reach both Sarah and I through education@shelburnemuseum.org. And so please, 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 and then I'll put this up in case anybody is interested in becoming a member or donating. Um, and we'll just be on for another moment more, and then we will say goodbye. Oh, children's portraits. Yeah, excellent. That's a great question. Oh, and somebody said you mentioned seeing our work. I will put in the Google Drive that I sent out, I will put a link for where you can upload something. So you'll get that from me. You'll get an email from me by the end of the week. And in that, there will be a place you can upload your work. And I'll have a comment that asks if you're okay with that being shared or if you just want to see this. The next dates, great question. The next date is the 19th. So we are on February 19th, and then we are on March 5th and then March 19th. So it follows a really nice pattern. 2/5, 2/19, 3/5, 3/19. Amazing. And so with that, we'll wait just a couple more moments in case there's any other questions, but we appreciate you all and are so grateful for this. Sarah, any last thoughts as people are heading out?
No, I've been just kind of jotting down some notes, and I'm glad that we haven't fully planned every single class on our end yet. So, some great suggestions and ideas of things to incorporate into future classes. So, thanks for all the input.
Amazing. And that's part of how we structure these is so that we can reflect and be responsive to what you all need as class members. So we have ideas of how we want to move, but we also want to really honor you and your experience and what you need. So wonderful. Thank you all so much. And thank you for the folks that returned from figure drawing. And thank you for the new folks who are here for portrait drawing. If anybody is interested, the figure drawing sessions are still on our website. So if you're like, oh, I loved this, we did a 4-part series last year on figure drawing. And so those are also there if you want more practice as well. And the site will be the Shelburne Museum website. And we should have those up within 48 hours. All right. With that, I'm going to say thank you and have a wonderful day. Goodbye, everyone.